Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's exciting panel discussion on future proofing insurance, a deep dive into digital transformation strategies for Nordic markets. We are standing at a pivotal moment in the insurance industry. Digital transformation is no longer an option, but a necessity. Today, we'll unpack the big question on everyone's mind. How can insurers position themselves for success in a future driven by technologies like AI and COTS platforms? So let's explore how industry leaders are navigating this shift. I'm thrilled to introduce our esteemed panelists today. First up, we have Michael Blix, partner at Avanti Corporate Development, who brings extensive experience in guiding organizations through digital transformation journeys and has a keen understanding of market trends. Welcome, Michael.
Thank
Next
you.
up, we have Nanda Kumar Muthusrinivasan, Senior Industry Principal at Infosys. Nanda is known for his expertise in leveraging AI and automation to streamline insurance operations and drive innovation. Next up, we have Varun Ghai, Head of Business and Consulting for UK and Europe at Newgen Software. Varun is dedicated to enhancing customer experiences through innovative solutions and process automations. Last but certainly not the least, we have Slawomir Gidek, Head of Sales and Delivery for Nordic countries at Solus, who has been instrumental in helping clients navigate their digital transformation journeys with a focus on integration and standardization. So, a very warm welcome to everyone, and let's dive in. My first question would be to Michael. So, Michael, let's zoom out a bit. We have been hearing a lot about legacy systems nearing the end of their life cycle. How are insurers in Nordic markets embracing COTS platforms to stay ahead? And what major trends do you see emerging as companies rethink their digital strategies?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I think what's happening at the moment is that a lot of the sort of first generation IT platforms are generally reaching end of life at approximately the same point in time. Most of them were created late 70s, 80s, maybe the newest ones are from the earliest 90s. And they're all kind of reaching the 30, 35, 40-year lifespan that's been working so far. And what we see is that a lot of companies are looking at buying something completely new. So custom off the shelf standard software. I think a lot of companies are realizing that to build something on your own, like we did back in the day, it's just way too complex today. The sort of total volume of IT capabilities is so much more than when they were created back in the day. When you basically had your policy in a system and maybe you had a financial record of the claim in a system. Today, IT is so much more. We create documents, we automate processes, we have front ends, we have customers interacting and doing things. It's just a completely different set of capabilities. So how do they embrace this? Well, I think a lot of companies are doing the right thing. They're looking at different platforms, evaluating their options, thinking hard and deep. I was myself part of setting a strategy to actually extend the life of a legacy platform. This was relatively new from sort of the 90s and still working and being able to serve kind of digital processes, but mostly the complexity to do that and the lifespan, you can't really extend it. So looking at new options is definitely something a lot of companies are doing. Most of them, I would say that I'm in contact with, they sort of cut the elephant into smaller pieces, as we say in Swedish, right? So you start with one area, typically smaller area, less risk, less customers. And then you kind of you get into that, you learn the platform, you get used to this type of development because it's very different if you have your own custom built application to work in a standard application, because basically you're adapting your business to the application, right? And not so much the other way around. We want to avoid custom custom development in the platform, so we stay on the path of upgrade and new functionality coming from the vendors. And it's not just the sort of the core area, so the policy, claim, and the financial area. There's also a lot of investment into automation software in one way or another that helps us, that augments the core capabilities and sort of the core platform. There's also a lot of investment in various kinds of digital capabilities, right? So all of the web front-end app stuff. Yeah, so that's sort of what's going on. I think the main driver here is the sort of customer digital interactions, so online, web, app, that kind of stuff. But there's also a lot of things you can do on the inside today, which help automate or streamline the way we work. We generally, like, we move resources from working manually in sort of the call center or the front end of the business into designing business rules, designing algorithms for computational decisions. So like, let's say fraud or communication or some customer comms or something like that. And then they typically move into some form of IT role, right? They do requirements or they manage the business rules or something like that. So that's what's happening. One thing I want to sort of just round off with is that I feel there's a lot of that at least the Nordic market, people tend to move around between a few companies, insurance companies there are. So there's a lot of kind of herd mentality. Somebody buys a particular platform and then the other kind of go, ooh, that's interesting. Maybe we should evaluate that. And they kind of like what they see, and so they go into it. And then suddenly you have 2 or 3 players having the same thing, and then the fourth and the fifth and the sixth, they tend to follow, not because of just following, but there's since the market is so small and the number of resources so limited that have skills in particular platforms, there's a value in all of them kind of choosing within the same area, the same kind of technology stack, because we can then build skills and capabilities locally. And yes, we all compete between the insurance companies, but we also kind of work together, right? And it's for everybody's best. So that's something that's definitely happening, at least from my point of view.
Thank you, Michael. That's very interesting. Let's talk more about the role of AI in transforming insurance. So the buzz around AI has been nonstop, and we are still figuring out on how to best integrate it into our existing systems. How is AI influencing the adoption of these COTS platforms, and what challenges are insurers facing in leveraging its full potential?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. The amount of actually kind of core insurance platforms that have AI capabilities built in is actually not so many. So we can start off in that area. There isn't a huge amount of sort of core policy and claims that have any kind of AI component. They're still pretty, what's it called, traditional in the way they think about automation. There's definitely signs and there's a lot of investment going on. But I still think this is very much a kind of maturing capability. You'll see it in little bits and pieces, pockets here and there. You can see some traces of it. And then there are some traditional use cases like fraud or so on, where we obviously have traditional machine learning AI. But if we look at the generative AI side, I don't see a lot of core platform companies having any sort of good offers out there or things that can complement the core insurance kind of capability. So what I see a few companies doing is looking into that from a sort of to complement the core platform. Typically so generating things like customer communication is an interesting area that people are looking at. So taking some data from the system, given a situation, and the AI then generates some form of communication. So this is something I see a few customers actually exploring today, which I think is pretty cool. Obviously, we all play around with the latest generative technologies ourselves. Certainly I do. I generate a lot of my communication and so on through that within limit, right? So, but I think that's an interesting area. And of course, we just mentioned the sort of traditional areas like fraud and pricing, which have more machine learning based AI, still under the umbrella of AI. So I think any company looking at this really need to see it from a sort of pick an area where we can mature our capability, experiment, learn, then from that grow experience, and then kind of embed into something more stable. But I don't think anyone should go into the embed stage at this stage. We're sort of at the top of the hype cycle, and everybody knows, having been around a couple of different things, that it tends to drop off before it sort of stabilizes and it's part of our natural business. So that would be my advice to anyone listening. Pick an area, grow, mature, then embed.
Thank you, Michael. Let's hear from Infosys. Nanda, building on Michael's point about AI, how do you see AI reshaping the implementation of COTS platforms? And what are some of the practical benefits and challenges which are emerging?
Thanks, Rashi. Thanks, Michael, for giving the overview of what I'm going to talk now. Actually, as Rashi, you mentioned and Michael talked about how AI is disrupting, the whole ecosystem, technology ecosystem, if I have to say. Cost products are not. If you look at COTS product implementation, in my opinion, it has got four major components. One component is about configuring COTS products. The second component is all about integrating COTS products. Then the third one is all testing, and the fourth one is data migration. Now, all these four areas, we see, impact of AI becoming bigger and bigger. For example, the co-pilots for configurator role today for ranging from complex COTS products, basically where you have lower level of configuration to very easy to configure COTS products. We have got configurator co-pilots coming in. Now APIs are being built using Gen AI scripts. Similarly, we are also seeing the testing is heavily influenced by this generative AI, and even traditional AI scripting methodologies are completely taken over by Gen AI co-pilots. Again, the maximum impact where we are seeing today is on the data migration. If I have to take life insurance policy migration into a COTS product, the biggest challenge typically is getting the historical data, getting historical business rule into the newer system, because some of these policies run for more than 30, 40 years, and they've got a few more years to run off. You cannot leave any of those policies. Now, the biggest challenge is how are you going to get those very old business rules, the historical data, into the new system? Now, we have been working with clients both in Europe as well as in the US, wherein we are able to extract business rules as well as the policy data for many decades using Gen AI scripts, and seamlessly migrate them into the newer areas, the newer policies, policy management, policy application products, parts process. This is one, one disruption what we are seeing in the implementation side. Now, there is also another area. It's on the core policy implementation. Now, when it comes to the peripheral areas, like where the low-code, no-code platforms were trying to fill up the space. Now, this area, low-code LC&C area, also is going to be helped by disruption from AI and Gen AI. For example, there are a lot of communications that happen in the emails, or claim-related communication, agency-related communication, renewal processing, etc., are available. Now, those data, the data available in those communication channels are not getting integrated into the mainstream. Now, with generative AI coming in, we see quite a bit of potential to look at this data, understand your customer beyond the policy records that show it. This is the second area where we see more disruption coming when you are implementing the COTS audit, how the peripheral systems can go and influence it. These are the two areas from the implementation perspective. Where COTS products need to keep an eye is the emergence of agentic framework. This agentic framework, now what it brings us, hitherto most of the AI implementations or Gen AI implementations were at the POC level, focusing on a simple functional output. Now, this agentic framework can help actually Gen AI, to move into the workflow space. So from functions, it is possible for us to look at process flows with the help of agentic framework. Now, areas for any policy administration system. The uniqueness of any policy admin system is their ability to visualize the process flows. Now, agentic workflow can help them much better to redefine those workflows, can help them to redefine those workflows in a much leaner fashion. These are the main points I would say, that will impact PaaS implementation or the COTS implementation going forward due to disruption from AI.
Thank you, Nanda. That's definitely fascinating. I'm gonna talk more on the AI and Gen AI's impact now. So Varun, as Nanda has highlighted, AI can work wonders when integrated properly. But there's more to the story. How do you see process automation and AI coming together to boost efficiency in insurance world?
Sure. Thanks, Rashi, for that question. See, from an AI perspective, there are two main asks today with the customers. The one ask is, what can we do with AI? Right? And everyone is curious, like what to do with it. The other problem is those who know that, yes, they can use AI. The question comes is, how should we do it, or whether we should do it, right? So it's two different problems to solve. And even like Michael highlighted that with AI, the key point is, or with any automation, it's not bring the whole elephant in. It's like slice the elephant into pieces. So slice the problem, right? Now, we, from a Newgen perspective, we have been seeing problems and I would say use cases in multiple areas. Right? There are areas on the operations or processes, right, where the way of working of an organization could be streamlined, automated, or assisted with modern technology, whether we are talking automation, whether we're talking AI, right? The other area is content. Now, a lot of, or I would say every process in insurance or any financial sector, this involves a lot of transactions or operations around content, whether you're talking underwriting. So you see a lot of documents, KYC coming, where decisioning happen. And let's say we are talking claims. Now, claims are also with a lot of supporting documentation, etc. Right? Where even in today's time, there are a lot of manual work, reworks, time being invested by different stakeholders, a lot of to and fro between business leaders, etc. And we see that there is a need over there on the content side. And third, what we see is on the data front, right? Now, data has a lot of intelligence, a lot of knowledge within it, and it's called the new oil in the modern world. So there's a lot of potential within the data, and we see there's a lot of answers are hidden within it. The problem is the volume is very high, and the problem is not every data is structured. Data is in different formats, in different systems, in different legacies, etc. Right, and at different sources. So that becomes a problem. The scale becomes a problem. Interoperability of the data becomes a problem, right? And often we see by business leaders that they ask this question to IT, that you bring in new systems, you bring in AI, but what's in for them, right? At the end, what they get is a fancy dashboard report, right? Okay, we invested X millions and you got this outcome and all, right? But the person who is signing the checks still sees a report at the end of the day that how the business is working or how the efficiency came, right? So this is, I would say, if I slice it, is on the process, content, and on the data side. Now, we have been seeing a lot of adaptation, where even as Michael highlighted, that rather than over automating the cores, right, it's lightening them up with maybe use of low code, no code, or process transformation around, say, the core. For example, I have seen a lot of my customers, they receive millions of emails on a daily basis. Okay. Now, AI could complement in, say, auto classification or triaging of those emails, like finding out, say, that it's for a new quotation, or it's for a renewal, or it's a claim, or it's a threat customer is sending to us. So there could be many areas, and there are those smaller efficiencies which could be. So rather than people directly jumping into a core pass system, etc., and taking an action, we could use AI and its adaptation to, say, automatically streamline those processes, or assistively classify them into meaningful buckets, right? And then maybe I land up to pass. Same in underwriting space or claims workspace space, right? Process automation can help silo those manual activities over a streamlined orchestration layer, right? Where nuisance could be restricted, repetitive tasks could be automated, and wherever I need value, wherever I need a human intelligence, etc., right, we could utilize that. And that's often is called AI with a leash. So AI helps in a lot of repetitive tasks, but human complements where an expertise is required, where the regulatory compliance is a problem, right? The human decisioning helps over there. On the content side, AI is seeing a lot of boom on various, like the fraud detection, fraud protection, etc. See on the document, duplicate documents being submitted across multiple, and it's beyond human capacity to look into millions of documents and make a decision. And AI has been boomingly helping over there. And third, when I mentioned about data, while generative AI has been now used a lot in the customer care side, where customers can self-serve on standard questions, etc., for themselves. But there is a new need where business is looking for a conversational AI or a Gen AI, and moving beyond those static reports, where business want to talk to the data. So, for example, a insurance head or underwriting head for a specific product, he wants to see how's my business operations running. Now, today that's in a dashboard, but what if I want to talk to my data? What if I want to see which of my products are working or not? What if I can chat with my data in a way that do I see a possible churn of my customers? Right. And that's an interesting area we are receiving from a lot of our customers, where the sponsors or the leaders are looking for AI in their better decision making, right? And rather than they back and forth keep going back to business or IT, that can you change my report? Can you add more data elements? Reduce that and directly enable business in conversing with the data or the intelligence which is there in their current systems. Right. So on these three areas, and they complement very well each other, the process, data, and content, they complement very well each other. And at Newgen, we have been doing that for ages. Thank you.
Thank you, Varun, for your insights. Now, let's talk about overcoming standardization and integration challenges. So let's hear from Slavomir. Slavomir, you have highlighted the importance of integration in your work. What are some of the biggest challenges you have been seeing in integrating new COTS systems with existing infrastructures, and how can insurers overcome them?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So I think it's actually fascinating how are we discussing topics today that a few years ago, 5 or 10 years ago, there were totally different topics on the agenda in the Nordics, but also worldwide in insurance world. So now we talk a lot about AI, and it's not without reason. There is a strong belief that this may be the next meta technology in the world. So people are learning and investing in that. What I wanted to say by this is that the environment is changing so much that you really need to be prepared to jump the train and to follow it. And I think it's a merger of two realities. It's always those two realities that Varun also mentioned, that it's business and technology that need to work in tandem together within an insurance company to make it happen. So when we talk about standardization and implementation of those off-the-shelf systems, this is usually, or I would say always, there should be a business goal behind that. Always to have this success. So you need to have business goal to do that. Sometimes maybe it's enough to clean up and patch what you have, and then look for this bleeding edge of technology and to look into new solutions. Sometimes maybe you need to replace your legacy altogether. You need to have your executive alignment and stakeholders buy-in in whatever you do. So whether this is full-fledged digital technology transformation that needs to be supported by business transformation, by strong alignment with your strategy, with alignment with your target operating model that you need to have in place to be able to prioritize and to have the scope. That you need to have it to achieve the business value at the end. And the core system, this is what we at Solus do a lot. We have over 100 successful transformations around cores around the world, and already track record in the Nordics. This is another enabler that you need to have in order to think about following the newest and the latest. So having all of these in place, so having reliable core on the technology side, having clear business goals, alignment with your executives, with stakeholders on the business side, it helps to build a case for change and draw the line between the old and the new part of the transformation. And I think this is fundamental in making this blend that you asked about, to put something new into your existing landscape, so to speak. So the core replacement, maybe that's a cliche. It's like a heart transplant. It's a huge undertaking. Sometimes you need to do that to maybe to survive and to thrive. That should be the goal. You should thrive on the market. Maybe sometimes you can look for other options that will achieve your business goals in similar way. Anyway, I think the goal should be to unlock your potential, to unlock IT budget for innovation instead of workarounds around workarounds, just to keep existing IT architecture alive. So that would be my points when looking into the delivery and making this transformation a reality.
Okay, so this question is for all of you. Imagine if you are an insurance CIO, how would you balance your investments between modernizing or replacing legacy systems, investing in automation with low-code platforms, or exploring newer technologies like data analytics and generative AI? Where do you think insurers should focus their spending to stay ahead?
I can go first on this. I think the answer will vary to some extent. There isn't a single answer to this. It depends on your business priorities. So the first thing is always to align with what are my overall priorities, what are the trends and the challenges in my marketplace, matching that with the issues and sort of the problems and the risks I have in my IT estate. So it might be that you're halfway through with a legacy modernization, but that's taking all of your resources. then of course you need to follow through on that before changing track and maybe investing more in generative AI. You've got to follow through because there's a huge cost to changing sort of an oil tanker of a project, which typically modernization or replacement is. But on the other hand, you can't really ignore AI and the impact it's having. So you've got to kind of balance a little bit towards that, invest very selectively in kind of trying some things out, maybe applying it to the area that you have modernized and seeing how that goes. So that you don't, one, lose staff because they will move if you don't have this and you don't invest in it. You also need to build new capabilities in the new world. So that's kind of how I see it. You have to at least play around with these new technologies, even though you're investing heavily in your modernization. That's how I would see it.
Nanda raised his hand. Nanda, why don't you go next?
Okay, maybe I will go next.
Sure.
Okay, so it's a tricky question, Rasi. Very difficult to say, which one I will not be able to prioritize. You cannot forget the poor legacy modernization. At the same time, as Michael said, you cannot leave behind, the emergence of newer technology like AI. I would say, if I were the CIO and I hope I have a lot of money to invest in this, I would rather start simultaneously on core modernization and on the AI, followed by data. If I have to, prioritize these three, the reason is, there is some roadway, there is some runway you are going to have to get your data right when you want to do a core modernization. First 9 months to 10 months, you are going to be focusing heavily on getting the product right for your newer launches or new policy sales. And this could be applicable for even for local platform. So your reliance on data is slightly lower on the first year of any core transformation. And similarly, you are going to be investing on proof of concepts, buying the infrastructure, getting the infrastructure right as far as AI is concerned as initial steps. And the data readiness actually can be done even using your own AI tools. So that is the reason I'm prioritizing equal priorities for core modernization and AI investments. I would split my dollars, and followed up by the data strategy. Possibly a little bit it can wait. That's how I would position. Actually, back to you.
Varun, would you like to go
So what I'm
next?
hearing is, so what I'm hearing you say is that, is use AI to expedite and speed up the legacy modernization rather than thinking about them as separate individual initiatives.
That's right, Michael. AI initiative is actually an enterprise-wide initiative. Obviously, it can even enable your past transformation, legacy modernization, or low-code, no-code implementation. Your low-code, no-code implementation, as well as legacy modernization, would become much easier if you have AI tools in place in today's world. That's how I would put it.
Thanks, Nanda. As an investor, I would also see where are my returns or better returns coming in, right? So I'll also think from a return perspective, where do I need to invest first or most, right? And it's very critical in today's part. Now, whether to replace a legacy COTS system or not, that totally depends. I have seen customers where, let's say, COTS is towards end of life or it's not scalable at all. So you can't work. So you will end up replacing it, and that will become your important or immediate priority. But I've also seen some fantastic COTS, even built on mainframe. They do the work they have to do as a policy admin system fantastically. But where they lack is on the modernization front, on the service-oriented architecture, let's say, as an example, right? Where you club with different systems. So in those scenarios, we have recommended our customers to retain their IT assets, what they have, because they have been good and fantastic, and add value where you're lacking. So maybe a layer of low code, no code, or process transformation, etc. Around that helps a lot, right? And experiment that out. Like in wealth management world, systematic investment or progressive investment is very critical. The same way, invest, see the value, see the return, and then progress. Okay. In like in for I think for past 5, 7, 10 years, MVP in the agile world is very common. Is the minimal viable product. But what I also see is the most valuable product, right? Because that gives you the most outcome. After that is a lot of fancy thing around it. So see what is MVP for you, right? Drive the most value out of it, where you get more return, and then expand and thrive upon that.
I would add, Varun, to what you said. I fully agree with you that we should follow the value, business value. And I think it's very difficult to answer this question without really considering the business side. So to see where is your pain point as an insurer? Do you have profitable products? Is your underwriting working? Do you have those products that business is happy with? Are your sales channels and sales processes working, or other major inefficiencies there? Maybe something on the claim side. Maybe you incur huge costs there, or you have huge claims leakage, etc., etc. So going those business area by business area will show you where is your pain point. And then looking from this perspective, it will give you priorities for IT. So whether it's customer experience, and then opportunities for AI open, and for data also, because then feeds you into all those modern customer interaction possibilities. Or maybe your core business is broken and you don't really want to scale up what is broken because you're losing money, because you cannot price your products effectively. And then you have to focus on the core part, on pricing part, on underwriting part, fix that, and then leverage it with modern technology. And one more point about challenging that. What I usually observe in programs at customers that do not do really great is a lack of focus. And I would really encourage any CIO to, while exploring many options, and there's possibly huge value in doing that, in gathering this learning, to have this focus point, to have the organization focused and aligned on the most important thing in the given moment, to make sure that there is this sense of urgency in the organization to get things done and then move to the next part. That's how I would see that. So sorry, there is no concrete answer for me, more like process answer and few hints how to approach it.
Thank you, Slawomir. Thank you for your insights. So now we are on the final takeaways. Varun, as we begin to wrap things up, what's your advice for insurers looking for future-proofing their operations, and where should they focus their efforts when adopting AI and COTS systems?
The foremost is like don't over customize or invest in the COTS. Right, they are there for a purpose and they do it beautifully. The areas of improvement are around them, and they have been around the process, content, and data. And there's a lot of value which could be unearthed with this kind of a driver or automation around the core or the COTS systems.
Thank you, Varun. Nanda, what's your top recommendations for insurers to maximize their AI and COTS investments?
Okay. I would, there are 3 or 4 areas they should focus on. Actually, one is get your data strategy right. Right? How are you going to leverage Gen AI, migrating data? But you cannot do this in isolation. there has to be a AI strategy. There has to be a AI-led data strategy. You have to get that right. That's number one. The second one should be, how would you be able to embrace, the responsible AI framework for the given geography? Because, for example, any COTS product can be implemented in various countries, but the responsible AI frameworks are emerging region specific. You may have to, definitely focus on that. And then, the third area, all are equally important. I would say the third area is any will have to establish an AI COE, that AI Center of Excellence. How would you be able to leverage that AI Center of Excellence in COTS implementation or maintenance? This is, the third area. These are the three major areas I would say, they have to focus on. Rashi?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nanda. Slavomir, what are your final thoughts, mainly from your experience, on how insurers can stay agile during their digital transformation?
I would say use technology to your advantage and not the other way around. So leverage out of the box solutions as much as possible, but to keep costs and complexity reasonable. However, there is always this small part where the magic happens, where you can be aggressive and creative. And make sure that it's the small part, that it doesn't take over the whole exercise. And to be able to do that, always be in the driver's seat. So align with your business strategy, focus on business value, let the business value drive you. Do not copy all the ways of working. Usually all the ways of working are old and there are some improvements that can be made. And make sure you have the right people in right seats. And if you're using external providers, use their know-how, make sure there's expertise on board, just to make sure that there is this success. And the way to get there, it can change. That's why it's important to stay agile. When you have those points, it's easier.
Thank you, Slavomir. Michael, last but not the least, what are your final thoughts on how Nordic insurers can successfully navigate the future?
Yeah, I was thinking as if we're talking about AI and so on, I was thinking a lot about the point of a responsible framework, as Nanda put it. I think the controls and the audit of AI is really important. And it's too easy to get carried away with lots of new technologies. And Varun gave a lot of new cool examples of how we can use it, but we shouldn't forget that we still regulated business. We have a huge responsibility towards our customers. We need to keep control of these things. So having a think about that, whilst we also invest in new cool applications and kind of grow and mature and grow some of these things, I think is really important. When we talk about core, and Slavomir mentioned that also, that sometimes you run out of time and you have to do core replacement, but this is huge investment and it typically sucks up a lot of your resources during a relatively long period of time. I would look to try and extend the life of the existing systems as much as I can, and kind of pick bits and pieces which are not mature or digital enabled, where I can make like limited investments and bring them up to speed to modern technologies, using AI and cloud and these sort of things. And then kind of leave the really core as long as I possibly can, to try and avoid as much investment as possible. And I like the word of locking up or unlocking IT spend. I like that way of thinking. And I think the choice of build versus buy is still as relevant as it always has been. I think few insurers really are true tech companies able to build their own systems. In certain areas, sure, and you should invest in trying to build your own things where it really adds strategic value, where you are different as a specific company. In typically the core areas like policy and claim, there isn't a huge amount of difference in the very sort of center of it. But if you go into sort of the customer area or digital, sure, you can be different and you can differentiate, and that's where you should invest your own capability and perhaps build things or do long-term partnerships with companies like yourselves who really can add more value than on a one-to-one kind of consultant basis. It's about the knowledge, skill, and experience. So that's how I would kind of view the world. Invest where it makes sense. Keep control of your AI, and search for long-term partnerships where you can build skill and experience together with somebody else and leverage each other.
Thank you, Michael. So, on that note, thank you to all our panelists for sharing your valuable insights today. It's clear that while the insurance industry faces many challenges, the opportunities presented by AI and COTS platforms are boundless. For our audience today, I hope the conversation has sparked new ideas on how to future-proof your own organizations. And thanks for joining. We look forward to seeing how you drive transformation in your businesses. Stay tuned with us.